Hello everyone, I am Mofiyin and welcome to my podcast Today is Not Tomorrow. Here with me, kicking off this season, I have a wonderful guest, the founder and CEO of Youth Underground, Rasha Hammad. Hi Rasha.
Hi Mofi, nice to be here.
Lovely to have you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. In the cold.
In the cold, yes. Where are you at the moment?
I am in Geneva, Switzerland.
So it's very cold over there.
I don't think it's much colder than where you are, but there's it is cold. It is cold. It is cold.
Complaining, there is an understanding that it's freezing at the moment.
Exactly. Basically, yes, it's freezing. It's very cold. There's a wind. There's a wind in Geneva that really cuts through to the bones. So, but I guess we're the same as anywhere else in Europe.
Yeah, we'll get through it. It's fine. Summer will be here before we know it. So that's something to look forward to. Thank you so much for being here. I'm very excited to get down to business. And I would love if we could start with you explaining a bit more about what your organisation, Youth Underground, is.
Youth Underground is a platform for education about human trafficking for global youth. In other words, we focus on information that's easy to about human trafficking, that's easy to understand by global youth. And what our mission is, or what our vision is that we believe that if young people get the right information and they have that knowledge, they can take action themselves and they can empower themselves to take the right course to navigate around the world we live in. So, in terms of human trafficking, when they have information given to them, when they have the correct stats, they can act upon them. So what we do, we really focus on education and empowerment and advocacy. And the difference is that we don't tell, for example, young people, and when I say young people, it's really all ages and young people in their 20s. So it's not a particular age group, because it depends who we're focusing on. But we believe that if you give information, and if I give you the right information, Mofi, you'll act on it. You have that information, and it gives you a sense of empowerment, knowing that information is out there, that this is human trafficking, these are the signs, this is how I can spot the signs, and how I can act and protect myself and protect others. When you don't have the information, you can't do anything about it.
No.
And the issue today is that I find personally, and obviously in Youth Underground, is that I guess it's human nature, but it's beginning to change, is that young adults tend to hide a lot from the youth without understanding that if you don't see something, they feel there's something wrong. They can, and without that information, you're not protecting them, you're putting them in danger.
Yes.
And that's what Youth Underground is all about, is to protect them by giving them the information they need, and without hiding the information. You give the facts. It's not a fear factor. It's not like, beware, that kind of, no, these are the facts. And we trust that you will act upon these facts. Yeah. So that's what Youth Underground is all about. And it's very youth-based in the sense that our logo was designed by a teenager. The name, we came up with a few names, and we had I think it was like 15, 20 young people of all ages, and we had a list of names, and they came up with Youth Underground. I mean, we had it in the list, and I was hoping it would be the most popular one, but they chose Youth Underground. And the meaning for me is that it's a youth movement from within. We have students or younger generation that do read our texts, that read what we write, what we push out. Is it clear? Is it understandable? Is it relatable to all ages? Is it relatable to the youth? Are they going to, So in terms of education, it's really education in the fullest meaning of the word, the widest meaning of the word. That it's not us educating you, but it's vice versa. We're educating each other. We take our cue from what young people are into, what they're interested in, and based on that, then we act accordingly. And the best example of that is COVID this year, because we work we give presentations, and that's really our forte, is that we meet with young people, and the fact that was off the charts, we couldn't do that because of lockdowns. We had to find another way to reach young people, and we did that through social media. And another thing, just I might add, is that when you teach, for example, a teenager about human trafficking, that teenager will tell his or her friends, who will share it with his or her parents or guardians, so it has what we call a ripple effect. It doesn't stay in, teenagers and young people tend to talk a lot, and that's what we find extremely. That's how I find extremely wonderful. I mean, it's in our world today.
I think especially with the age of social media, if someone sees one post and they resonate with it, they will share it on their feed and everyone will see what it is that they have just seen. So you're definitely right in that aspect. And I love how you have tailored the entire organization to having a two-way relationship with the youth, and you listening to them, picking up on their ideas, taking in their inputs. Because rightly so, abuse and human trafficking is a very taboo topic. People tend to brush it under the rug and not really engage in those sorts of discussions. So I do think that this platform you've created is extremely important, and that, rightly as you've said, once we hear something, we will share it with someone else. And I think that that's the dynamic that needs to continue to grow. I know that when we were speaking prior to today's episode, you said, yep, you're not a member of Gen Z. And if you're trying to advocate for members of Gen Z, you need to have their input. It's extremely important. I think what you're doing is wonderful. And you also mentioned that there are stats and there's facts and there are all these bits of information that when you hear about them, it's shocking and surprising. So during the course of the rest of this episode, please drop them and let's hear about them and start discussions on those, because they are shocking and that's something I'd love for us to get into. You also started to talk about how you've had to change the way you work due to COVID. Other than your recent feature on CNN, I know you were talking about how it is drastic, the number of children who are having to school from home. What sort of measures have you had to take to continually reach people and look for those who are probably in circumstances of danger since they're staying at home?
The thing about COVID, and I know the CNN is it's great because it dropped during the election, so it had a lot of viewership. But this is what we've been doing for a few years now. And the idea is, as you mentioned earlier, is that the two-way education, and we get our pulse from the youth. If they're not, if we had organized a couple of campaigns and they wouldn't show up because of COVID, they were worried, and we said, we'll have masks, we'll have so-and-so, and they didn't. And fair enough. So we recognize that in order to have impact, we have to use their wording and focus on the platforms that they use. And actually, it's the platforms that we use as well, but in very different ways. I mean, it's an educational tool. Social media is educational, because I've been asked, is it fluff or not fluff? And I think it's important to say that it's a very powerful tool if you act on what you say. And that's what we try and do. So in terms of education, we focused on social media. Here you are, Instagram in particular, because we're not on TikTok or any other. Instagram is really I'm trying to keep up with all the social media out there already. But take Instagram, for example, you have all ages, because we get the insights, but you have all ages. But when it's a young person that says something about human trafficking, or shares a story, or says, I suspect, that I've seen a friend who's going through abuse, because the figures are horrible this year in terms of domestic abuse and so on. So it resonates with all generations. You have 1.5 billion and counting. These are estimates, because because it's a hidden, it's kind of a hidden crime. You don't know much about human trafficking, but in terms of students studying at home, you have at least 1.5 billion. You had at least since yesterday, put it that way, but it's continuing, obviously. It's 2020, and I think it will continue for a while, to study online. And that in itself is a huge number. it's a huge number. It's the population of China. Can you imagine the whole population of China working online? So you can imagine people who are hackers or predators, or they don't have to be traffickers per se, but people who have that, I'm not going to say intelligence, but that have that IT background or hacker kind of knowledge to get into people's profiles. It happens all the time. And they have a pool of young people that they can choose from at all ages, and they can contact. So what our role is, and will continue throughout this period, is to, and we'll continue, we've been talking about it a lot, but really during the COVID it increased, is the fact that be careful who you engage with. I know that the idea is to have as many followers or likes, or I know it's a big deal to have followers and have you post something, likes, and it for the youth in particular, and a lot of adults as well, trust me. But anyway, that's the main kind of, that's the yardstick for success, is how many people are watching, how many people are following, how many people are liking. But you have to be very mindful of the fact that you don't know who's on the other side. It can be somebody with a picture that looks great, gives you compliments and so on, and gets you on board. And you never know what can happen. Once something is out there, once something is online, it will forever be online.
Forever.
You can come 10 years later and you can say, oh, but on such and such a date, you said so and so. Or if, for example, I'm talking about, this is mostly girls, but there are boys, obviously, in this situation where they're asked to take off their, pose in a sexy way, take off their shirts or whatever. And it's a few seconds, Mofi. It's just a few seconds. Those few seconds of your time, the person on the other end can take a picture, and then you're all over. Put it on a porn site, or put it on a site that you don't want to be on. See, or that person does not want to be on. So our focus has been really educating and talking about social media in a way that's approachable, that's understandable. Again, it's not beware of social media. No, enjoy social media, but be smart about the way you use it. Is that if a person is contacting you, what does he or she want?
Yeah.
Have you met that person before? Will you be able to meet that person? Why or why not? Can you have a FaceTime call? Can you have a face-to-face, call? Then why or why not? One gets the impression that in terms of trafficking and predators, they kidnap and that's not the case at all. It's more, we call them the Romeo effect, in the sense that the people are groomed and given compliments, and we call that grooming. Is like getting to know the person, getting to know the weaknesses, the strengths, what that person likes, what that person doesn't like, and they entice that person. They're like, oh, you're worthy of so and so. You should be making this much money. You're capable of It's something that we all dream of success. But success differs in different people's minds. And when you're young and you're studying and you're thinking, oh, I have to study, or I want to just finish and have a job and do well. Obviously, the money factor and the success factor plays a huge role.
You do. And I think that you're 100% right with intentions. And as you've said, you are on these social platforms because it's the best way to reach out to younger generations. It's the reason that we are on TikTok and we are on Instagram or whatever it is, to try and reach you. But other than these mass organizations, or other than these good people, there are people out there with bad intentions. And one of the reasons I am so happy I've started having these conversations is that's the whole point, to have these conversations and to hear about it, to hear people talking about it. And it was initially an idea of a podcast, because I don't think there should be anything else attached other than listening to the facts, hearing the stories. But there's that whole trying to entice someone. They want to see a picture. They want to see what's going on, or else they'll get bored. Exactly. It can't be a blog post, because we've got to keep up with the times, and people won't read an entire page of why we need to prevent abuse and human trafficking. They need something that's going to catch their eyes. And once we've done that, we hope that you listen, because exactly what you've said now has increased over time. During COVID, all of these predators and all of this grooming of hearing what you want to hear these people don't have your best interests at heart, and it's all about what it can lead to, and I think that's really important. I do want to also ask that you have these young people working in the organisation. One thing is finding them. As you said, this is a hidden crime. You don't know who's being human trafficked. The number and the statistics could be much greater than they are. How do you find these victims, and how are you able to ensure their safety, and how are they able to overcome the trauma and speak about their experiences?
Yeah, you've mentioned two things. You've got volunteers. Volunteers are not necessarily victims of human trafficking. These are students who want to have, an internship or so that they have that. Volunteers working with us have nothing to do with survivors, but those who do reach out to us, or we reach out to them, and we hear their stories, we read about them, and we ask, would you be interested in sharing your story on Instagram? And that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because when we did have this segment every Saturday on all our social media, it started on Instagram, but within actually the week, we said it's going to go all over our social media. We decided that we would keep survivors' words as they are. We did not change anything. We did not edit. We did not filter. We did not sugarcoat it. And that's extremely important, because we were the first and probably the only ones that do that. And it's not for the what do you mean, the scandalous kind of factor at all. It's none of that. This is human trafficking. If you want to do something about it, you have to know the truth. And that's what we focus on: education, knowledge, advocacy, and that's the truth. So they came, let's say one would come to us and we would say, okay, so how would you like to share your story? I usually am the one who talks to the survivors, because I want to establish a dialogue and a bit of confidence. I want to see what that person is. I want the person to see me, to know that we're genuine, that it's not about selling Youth Underground. That day is their day and it's their platform, and they can say whatever they want. And they have to know that, and they have to hear it from me. So when they do come up and they share they tell us what medium they would like to share. Is it video? Is it written? Is it what pictures they would like? And having a few discussions like that puts them in the right frame of mind to share, to have that take that leap forward, because it's extremely difficult to share a story which carries so much baggage and so much shame, and people are talking, some of them are talking for the first time. They don't know how others will react, who's going to read it. And so what we do is they come to us essentially, and the most important part of all this is that what they share is in their own words throughout, however graphic it can be considered graphic. And it can be very graphic. We keep word for word. We don't change anything. And sometimes the stories can be fairly long. So initially we used to summarize them when we first started to see people's reactions. And then we said, no, we'll put the whole story in parts, because it's a build-up. How do you feel at every step of the way, throughout the whole process? And then how do you feel after? We're focusing a lot on what happens after. So I have to say I'm extremely proud of that, because not only do we have a trust, the trust is established. I think in general, people in the business, so to say, or people within the humanitarian areas know that if they want the truth, they'll find it from us. We will never change anyone's words.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with agreeing or not. We're like a channel for people to say what they have to say. And that in itself is education. You see what I mean, Mofi? It's not education in the sense of a school setting. It's more than just academic education. It's empathy, it's compassion, it's learning a lot more. And then you learn the signs. You learn that it can happen to anyone. And again, not a fear factor, but understanding somebody's journey. And the last thing I really want to say about that is the idea came from young people, from the youth, teenagers. We had 3, and they came up and they said, no, we need the words as they are, because the initial story was a bit sugar-coated. They're like, no, we want the real thing.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. And it resonated. In the beginning, we got comments directed at me, basically, essentially saying that this is inappropriate and so on. And I just made a statement saying, this is human trafficking. We owe survivors that respect, and you don't like it, then choose another cause. But with time, I think there's much more appreciation of that aspect. It's every Sunday of what we do, and I'm proud of the whole dynamics around it, because we also have young people having chats with survivors, and I think that's one of the best kind of exchanges we can have.
It is so important. And hearing you speak, I've already noticed my own incompetence. I think that I started to refer to these people as victims, and you refer to them as survivors, and I love that so much more. And I think that's not only a massive part of respect on their part, it is, but it's also what they are, because being able to overcome this and to speak up about it, these are warriors, these are survivors.
They are
strong. And as you've mentioned, sugarcoating their stories, I agree with you, it would have been the wrong thing to do. I think that leaving their raw emotions, exactly what happened, word for word, putting it out there, it's their story, they lived it. If that's how they deem to express themselves in whatever words and whatever graphic content may or may not have appeared, then so be it. As you've said, we are not exposed to these kind of conversations. They are taboo. So when this is seen, they'll say, oh no, you need to summarize that, you need to sugarcoat it, people shouldn't be seeing that. But if we don't bring up these discussions, how will you ever know? How will your friends and peers be able to identify that someone around them may be having signs of being someone who goes through abuse, someone who has been trafficked? We don't know unless we speak about these things. So I do appreciate all of the youth one-on-one, all of the youth interactions that you have to bring these stories to light. And what I want to ask now is, I know you mentioned that you work on different things to enable that these stories are shared and that your organisation is able to bring these conversations to light. You're working on a few campaigns. I think one has recently finished and you are starting one this January. This may be right or wrong. If you can please just clarify and explain a bit more
about
these campaigns you're working on.
One campaign we're doing is we've already done, but we've completed it. It's a photo campaign, and they're all photo campaigns because those are easier to reach a wider audience. But one that's important that we just finished now is a photo campaign to raise awareness about human trafficking, and there we're having posters on public transportation vehicles here in Geneva. The thing about public transportation in Geneva and in Switzerland in general is that it's very clean, it's used, it's like taking a car, like taking a bike. It's got it's something that people use all the time. It's a means of transport that transcends all ages, all social classes. So you'll find hundreds and hundreds of people taking any form, whether it's a tram or, like the tube, put it that way. It's the same kind of, it's one way to get around, and the easiest way to get around, especially downtown Geneva where everything is very small and there's no. So the campaign itself is a poster, just as an example of a poster of a young person. Say there's one person who's 7 years old, who we had 7-year-old, volunteering, which is quite something. And the person has a quote like, I think human trafficking is bad. I mean, I'm making it very, because none of them said that, but and then underneath we have a statistic, like, for example, a person is trafficked, 130 people are trafficked every hour worldwide, every day. And that statistic is beneath the picture of a child, a teenager. You have his quote, you have the statistic, and then we put the no crime scene ribbon, just, and then the bottom is that Youth Underground, our slogan is never doubt that one voice can make a difference. And that's what we say down, the little slogan down at the bottom of the poster, meaning that, no, we're not out for your money. We don't want anything. We want you to speak up. So it's an empowerment tool. It's not, this is a charity, please help us. No, you can do it yourself. You have a voice, use it. So you see all that, and then the slogan is like, okay, take action. It's your turn to take action. And that's, I'm really proud of it because the photography is fantastic. I had a vision, and photographer who I'll mention here, he's called Nicholas Pert, did a fantastic job. I mean, we got the ideas in like the last 3 days. Everything was put together and obviously those who participated. The second campaign, which is more accessible, which actually you can be involved in, is we have one day in January. We partner with an American NGO called Hands of Justice, and what we do is we ask people from all over the world with an iPhone just to take a picture of themselves with the word that comes to their mind when they think of human trafficking. Like, for example, on my hand, I could say empowered, or horror, or brave, or dehumanization. Any part of your body, within reason, obviously, but the forehead, the cheek, the chin, and you don't have to necessarily show your face. You can just put it on your arm and cut. And that we will be having these pictures full on 24 hours a day on January 15th. And because of the time difference, because we're here in Europe and Hands of Justice is in the US, it's more than 24 hours. It'll go on for our 24 hours and then their 24 hours. Yeah. And that's the social media. So we've had a lot of people who have been involved in that. We've received pictures from all over the world, and it's not we don't say, pose in this way, do this, do that. Just send the picture over. What word comes to your mind, send it over. Are you okay to be on social media? And that's it.
Those campaigns sound lovely, and I want to pick things from both of them. I think if we start off in the beginning, you mentioned that you have a 7-year-old volunteering to be part of this movement. I think that just is the epitome of children absorbing whatever it is that you give them. I think the best example I can use is with disability. That is also something that we sugarcoat a lot. A lot of children are very unaware of what a certain disability might actually include, and they might look at someone with a disability as lesser to them or be afraid, when that's not the case. These are just humans who are a little bit different than yourself. If you teach a 7-year-old, if you talk to a 7-year-old like a human being, obviously within reason what information you give them about something like abuse and human trafficking, they are bright enough to understand, and they will be a part of the movement. They will use their voice. I think that's an extremely powerful message there, that of whatever age, of whatever race, ethnicity, people can understand. We just have to use our voices. And I love your slogan, one voice. And that is the truth. One voice can change everything. By using your voice, by empowering other people, by educating other people, you can change tomorrow. And it's just as simple as that. I think that from the second campaign, I love the idea of taking the photo. This is something I will definitely partake in. It's a way to reflect. It's okay. It's a way for you to reflect and to see that people are going through certain things, but what can you take of it? Because it does affect all of us. If not immediately, it affects me and it affects people in society. So we are all a part of this together. Those campaigns are beautiful, Rasha. Thank you so much for leading them.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to look at all of the photos on your Instagram and on all of the socials. I hope that they reach all the ends of the world and people are people are more educated and take part. This is so wonderful. I've honestly
thank you. Okay. The main message that I would like to give from about Youth Underground is empowerment.
Yeah.
It's not let me tell you what to do. It's no, we'll give you the information, and you have the strength, you have the voice, we are all in it together, obviously in varying degrees, but we can all make a difference in the way we want to shape the world we want to live in. It doesn't have to be necessarily human trafficking. It can be climate change. It could be anything. Abuse at home. That's the message.
I like that message. I'm glad you got that in there. I think that the way you put it was perfect, and that is the message. We're in this together. Use your voice to empower. That's a really powerful word. It's very powerful. And I suppose do with it what you take of it. What does it mean to empower someone? How do you empower others? Are you empowered? You can use it in so many different ways, and I think that it is a very powerful word, a word within itself. I think it's lovely. And Rasha, thank you so much for your time. I would love now for us to steal something from the past, from 2020, bringing it to 2021. We are continuing with my theme, Letters to Self, which will involve you now writing a letter to future Rasha, maybe talking about your goals that you look to achieve personally and or with Youth Underground. So I'd love if you could take a minute and write your letter to self.
Okay, so I'll read it out loud.
Okay.
It's, dear me, is it? Yes. How do I? Dear me, the future me. I hope that we continue on the path of youth empowerment and underlining the fact that young people need a space, a safe space to express their voices because they have a voice and they need to use them. We need to encourage that creativity. We need to push for them to speak up. And my dream would be that we continue speaking up, that Youth Underground actually takes a step back and lets young people recognize the wrongs in this world, and they don't leave their friends behind. They don't leave their friends behind. They don't leave their whomever they may know in the world behind, because we all have our ups and downs and we all have our challenges, but it's true that together we can overcome them. And I truly believe that it takes a village, and it's very doable. And I hope we reach that stage. Yours truly, Rasha.
That was lovely, Rasha. Thank you so much. And like you said, I believe that you will reach that stage. It's all about getting everyone together to do this, and it is more than a possibility. Thank you so much for helping me kick off this year's season. This was really exciting. It was so much fun.
It was lovely. Thank you so much.
No problem.
And congrats on your podcast. It's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Thank you so much. I hope you all learned something from that, and I will have all of the Youth Underground's socials in the description below. If you're listening on Spotify or any other podcast streaming platform, it will be in the description. If not, check us out at _today-is-not-tomorrow on Instagram and all of the socials. I'm sure you're getting the picture. Thank you so much, Rasha, and I hope to see you for another episode of Today Is Not Tomorrow.
Thank you, Mofi.
Thank you so much, Rasha. That was
Thank you.